Okay, it is 4 p.m. Hope most of you are back from school, or some of you are joining us on your phones, on the bus, or ever. Welcome, everybody. Let's begin. So today, most children in South Africa went back to school, and if you are one of them, I hope you really had a good day. Some children are also still at school, and this is after schools were closed down. Sorry about that. Due to COVID-19. Let me just stop this. Life happens, and I apologize about that. So let's begin. So during this period of lockdown and COVID-19 crisis and everything, some schools were able to onboard their children differently on all learning platforms and continued with learning, smoothly, while some really struggled to even have one lesson or teaching happen during that period. I asked myself the same question I did at previous week's talks, that should another similar crisis strike, will we be ready as a nation to do things better and differently in our schools? Will the system be ready to benefit every child in South Africa equally? We are in our second week of Learning in Interesting Times series, where we talk to grade 12s and any other interested individual to know how they can look at this and prepare themselves going forward to university, and also hear from some of the organizations that offer bursaries and scholarships, and just to make sure that this crisis doesn't define them as failed, but prepares them for the next stage in life. So my name is Mpho Mutlong, and I'm really excited to host you today. I hope everyone is settled now and we can all begin. If we look back, remembering some of the talks that we held in the previous weeks, there was a point where Professor Jonathan Jansen said that COVID-19, the crisis that comes with COVID-19, was not or is not creating inequalities, but it is revealing inequalities that are already there. The education system is one that I would say that has been hit most by this crisis, and it might be the one that has been, hugely affected, or someone that has been affected. Why am I talking about this? So the truth is that dwelling in problems isn't going to help, or that's what I believe. Rather, we need a system that is 21st century ready to deal with the new market demands, but also a system that is ready to redress the inequalities that we are seeing now. And that will take a government, organizations, and people who really care about the legacy and purpose of their existence. Let's talk about the importance of a legacy for you as a young person. Living stories for when you are not around to tell them yourself. You don't have to be dead to leave a legacy, because some people think, okay, a legacy is the story that people tell about you when you are dead. Not necessarily, even when you are still alive. For example, we like taking selfies, right? When you post your selfie online, what are you known for? What do people say about you? But let me rephrase this. When you post it, what would you like people to say about you or to know about you? That is your legacy. Pictures don't tell as many things. They don't tell us many things about who you are and everything, unless you know the story behind that particular picture. A legacy is a story of someone's life, the things they did, places they went, goals they accomplished, their failures, and more. Legacy is something that a person leaves behind to be remembered by, be it your previous school, your previous job, or anything. What is more important is that legacies are pathways that guide people in decisions with what to do or what not to do. What do you want to be known for? I ask again. At Jakes Gerwel Fellowship, we believe that education is a powerful tool to change people's lives. We believe in the power that quality education has in terms of addressing inequalities and improving people's lives. We do this through nurturing expert teachers who embrace innovation and lead change. Our vision is to see the lives of every child in South Africa improving through improved education and improved schools, and receiving better education, obviously, at their schools. I therefore ask you again today to think about the legacy that you are leaving for people that come after you. What book are you writing about yourself? We are now in the second week of learning in interesting times, and we have seen the value of these talks for so many people. So please remember to invite your friends to quickly join us now. We are live on Zoom. We are also on Facebook Live right now. Please engage with us through comments, through Q&A sections from wherever you are joining us today. All our talks are also recorded and saved on YouTube for you to enjoy at a time that suits you. Please also subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you do not miss out on interesting content that we'll be sharing and posting there. On Twitter, we are at JG Fellowship and tweeting under the hashtag JGF webinar. So invite your friends now to join while I recap on what we did in the previous week of learning in interesting time. We want to spend this week with you exploring different funding organizations, but also focusing on their legacy and their purpose. We started on the 25th of March with Professor Jonathan Jansen, who opened this series of talks by reminding us that in times of a crisis, it is really up to you how you want to determine how you want to come out of that crisis. We have spent some time chatting with UCT, with VETS, with UJ and UP, looking at how their processes are responding to the crisis or to COVID-19 to make sure that your applications and admissions is as smooth as possible. This week, we looked at purpose-driven scholarships, starting off with NSFAS today. Make sure that you join us every week, every day of this week at 4 p.m. and hear from Alan Gray. We will also have Jakes Gerwel Fellowship, so you know about us in length there. We will also be joined by Tomorrow Trust and Marshall Scholarship on Friday. Going to university should not be scary anymore, as we have answered, I believe, most of the questions around applications, university preparedness, and all the videos can be found on our YouTube channel, as I mentioned earlier. Today, we will focus on NSFAS, which is the largest funder of students in South Africa. So let me just, I do have some facts that I'd like to share with you also, that NSFAS is the largest academic funder of students in South Africa. In 2019 alone, NSFAS received over 540,000 applications, and the scheme is supported by over 30 billion rands in funding. Today we have our honorable guest, who is Dr. Randall Carolissen. He is the National Administrator at NSFAS. Welcome, Dr. Carolissen, and while he prepares to join us, I do have a video that I'd like to share quickly with you.
I grew up in Ravensmead, which is around the corner. In 1969, I was a young boy, and I looked up, and my father was sitting outside in the yard next to a fire, and he pointed to the moon, and he said, "There's a man walking on the moon today." The first man that stepped on the moon, on 20th of July 1969. And I said, wow. And to me, that was a life-changing event, because then I said to myself, I'm going to become a scientist. Now, a young boy in Ravensmead sitting next to a galley blick, you know what a galley blick is? Saying to his friends, I'm going to become a scientist, was a bit of a funny story, no? And today I am a scientist, and it's opened the world up to me. There is probably not a single city in this world that I haven't been to. I've traveled the world. I've met famous people. The only way you're going to change your life is through education. Because not only do you accumulate material wealth, but you also liberate your mind. Because when you travel to other parts of the world, you see other people that share the same emotions, the same values, and the same things that make you laugh or cry. And then when you come back, you don't see differences in skin color anymore. You don't treat a woman lesser than you because you have grown. Your mind is liberated. You can think about other things than having to worry about whether I should like my neighbor because he or she is a Muslim, or he or she is a Christian, or he or she's got a different religion. It opens up your mind, it liberates you. And if that is not a compelling answer to improve your qualification or to make use of this opportunity that I'm going to describe to you, then I don't know what's going to change. There are easier ways. You can become a gangster and have a very short and glamorous lifespan. And when they bury you, they say, ons is so bly is weg. Or you can make a meaningful contribution to life. When you leave one day, like a person like Chester Williams, nobody can make the decision for you. I can't make it for you. Your mother can't make it for you. Your principal can't make it for you. That is a decision that you will say, I'm going to take it. And when you make that decision, you are going to experience, because the devil is good, you're going to get obstacles in your path. You're going to get knockdowns. I can't tell you how many times I was knocked down and I say, this is not worth it. I'm giving up. But at the end of the day, the success is so sweet. And I'm using me as an example, not because I think I'm important, but similarly, I can tell you stories when I was a lecturer at UWC about students that had all the reason for not completing their degrees, and they found ways. I had a lady student that worked as a petrol attendant at night so that she could attend lectures during the day. Okay, so she could have said, I don't have money. Last year we funded 650,000 students. This year we'll be probably funding also close to 650,000 students. We pay for your tuition. If you need to live on res, we pay for your residence, we pay for your travel, and we also give you a meal allowance. All we're asking for is for you to get into an institution and to pass every year. That's all we ask. There's no repayment. So when you write your matric exam, write with that in mind. If you have not applied yet to university, apply, because we're only going to give you the money once you get into university. Once you're in, the next year, we're not going to ask you to apply again, because if you pass, you are funded automatically. The opportunity is there for you and you have to take it. Don't let this go. Don't sit one day somewhere out on a stoop and say, I could have been. Take this opportunity and run with it. Okay? So that one day, when they put you 6 feet under, say, be silent, there goes a man. So please, and the reason why I'm talking so earnestly to you, the statistic shows last year and this year that the uptake in the Western Cape is the lowest in the country. If you have qualified as a NSFAS student, you don't pay registration fee. You go with your slip. You don't even go with your slip. You go with the ID to the university, and they will pipe it into their systems, and they will see you're a NSFAS student, and you don't pay registration fee. You can apply online. You can use your cell phone. You can go to a computer. Apply now. Apply today.
And welcome once again, and we are really grateful to have you join us today. Could you please just tell us, is NSFAS a grant or a loan, and just the story behind its existence and what you're talking about there in the video? I think I found that that was really interesting.
Okay, so thank you. It's a pity about the video, because it's perhaps we can find a way to distribute it. But in any case, NSFAS administers two regimes at the moment. The pre-2018 regime, before President Zuma made the announcement of free education, NSFAS was a loan, and different conditions existed for that loan. So for instance, the household threshold was 122,000 Rand a month for income for qualifying for NSFAS. And you also are paid N+2. In other words, 3 years, if it's a 3-year degree, you qualified for 5 years of funding. And because it was a payback, it was probably fine then. But with the new announcement, it became a bursary in its entirety, which covers you, and it does not have a cap like the loan system had prior to 1978. So it's full coverage, full funding, and so it's a big difference. So at the moment, we register both regimes, as the pre-2018 cohort gets taught out, we are full bursary. The bursary is in the main funded by Department of Higher Education and Training, and we got from them for 2020 35 billion Rand. We also administer other bursaries like the Funza Lusaka and some bursaries from CETAS, and those are different qualification criteria. And normally when a student don't qualify for NSFAS, we might see in what way we can assist him or her with this other types of bursaries that we have. And that is about 3 billion. So we administered about 40, just under 40 billion Rand for 2020. And when you apply for the first time and you are successful, that's the only time that you apply. After that, we get your progression data from the institution. And if you pass, it just gets reinstated. And we guarantee you for your full duration of your studies. So it's actually very, very attractive. We are the only country in the world that has such a generous bursary scheme. And it is intended to narrow the gap between unemployment, inequality, and poverty. I can take myself as an example. I was funded by a state bursary. When I did my degree, I had to pay it back, but that was fine. It set me up to do my postgraduate degrees successfully. So I'm just going to give you some background on NSFAS. So NSFAS was placed under administration in 2018. And at that time, when Minister Naledi Pandor asked me to assume the administration position, if I look back, I must have been totally mad to have done that. But she said to me that not only will we have to fix the NSFAS and its processes, but we probably will have to fix the entire system. And we can actually see now, 20 months later, that we are having a major impact on the entire sector. We are now forcing institutions to have proper data. Our data exchange protocol is so much better, and students are getting their money on time. In 2018, in August, when I took over, students were not paid for 8 months of that year. And you can imagine the hardship that was suffered by students. So we paid last year over 650,000 students. We are funding, as we speak, 42% of the entire university population. So it's a massive impact, this. And 70% of all the TVET students are funded by NSFAS. Why is that statistic important? Because at different universities, you get different participation rates. And by way of example, we fund over 90% at University of Zululand and 15% at University of Stellenbosch. And I made the point to all the vice chancellors. I say the plight of the poor is not just for the historically disadvantaged universities. And there is therefore commitment that some of these other universities will also step up their enrollment of NSFAS students, because it is free. Because not free, it is the university takes on the student debt-free. You know, so in the olden days, the historically disadvantaged universities had large problems with students that couldn't pay them. Now, if you have 80% or 90% of your student in NSFAS funding, it's guaranteed funding. So you can then focus on your teaching as opposed to be concerned about your debt purposes. The debt payments. The reason why I'm mentioning it specifically is that although we had 42% university participation rate, I fully expect that to increase quite significantly next year. If you look at the post-COVID environment, how many people will be losing their jobs, and in the hardship, general hardship that people are suffering. So there's going to be big competition for NSFAS bursaries next year, and also, moreover, big competition for placement at universities. Now, what we often find to be the case is that students apply, and they might apply in time for NSFAS, but they don't apply to the institution. And so a large part of our students that we qualify for NSFAS bursaries, don't get it because they don't get into an institution. And so parents, if they are listening, you must make sure that your children apply both for NSFAS and institution. And the school pupils must make sure they get good enough results to get into an institution, because this is a chance of a lifetime for you to get out of poverty. So now some people have asked me this question: has NSFAS been successful? Has it achieved what it set out to achieve? Now, we have done a 2008 cohort study, and by no means do we claim that it's completed the study, but we found that on throughput rate, NSFAS is 10% better than the national cohort. Okay, if you take NSFAS are doing, insofar as throughput goes, 10% better than all other students. And the dropout rate of NSFAS is 10% lower in the first year. And what this tells you, it tells you that when students have the security that they know where their next meal comes from and that they are funded, they can focus, therefore, on their studies and do better. And what's also interesting is that we see that our NSFAS students are starting to shift more to career degrees that will guarantee them a job. So we are seeing a shift, quite a significant shift of NSFAS students taking science, engineering, medicine, and technology-related degrees. So I think that's sort of the background of NSFAS. There's a lot of other statistics that I can quote. Do we reach the right audience? Half of our first-time enrollments last year came from SASSA students. So we enrolled over 220,000 SASSA students. From the other half, 120,000 came from the informal sector. So it shows that we are actually reaching the poor and the marginalized. Now, of course, the issue of the missing middle is a huge concern. So we don't want a university where only the poor and the very rich go to. We want the missing middle in there as well. And there is a big challenge for South Africa as to how to deal with it. And in fact, the missing middle debt in the university sector is about 9 billion rand. And you can imagine how difficult it makes it for them to focus on their studies. An interesting thing that we are also seeing is that even if you have to pay back the pre-2018 loan, we're seeing that our students are no longer so much taxed in a way, shall we call it the black tax phenomenon. Because in the past, all of us had to go and work for our siblings to get through university. So we see an interesting phenomenon is that the first generation NSFAS students, the growth of their siblings taking up NSFAS is much bigger. In fact, it's quite significant. So it shows that once the first brother or sister has gone through the system, they know what to do. And therefore, it's easier for them to get their brother or the sister onto the system. And that frees them up not to having to pay money for their brother or the sister. They can participate in the economy straight away. They can buy a car, they can buy a house, and they can become taxpayers. So there's a whole host of interesting phenomena that we see. But let me come back to the COVID environment. So when you have a crisis in a country or in a pandemic crisis like this, you can sit back and cry, or you find ways to innovate. So in the case of NSFAS, we have placed our entire operating system on a virtual platform. So all of us are working from home. There's nobody in our head office. Occasionally, some of our IT staff might go in to do a few things, but we all work as the way I'm exactly working now through this type of thing. In fact, I'm in Pretoria and our office is in Cape Town. And despite this, we are actually doing, I think in some cases, even better than when we had we been at the office, because we had to innovate. And so we are paying students on time. We have now developed a banking platform where from next year onwards, we're going to pay students directly into their bank accounts, because this paying through a university or a TVET colleges causes unnecessary delay and frustration and anger with students. So we were initially only going to pay TVET colleges next year, but now there's a strong push that we pay everybody next year through direct banking. And this we all did while we're sitting at home. So we are very proud of NSFAS, but I think the innovation that is now, and as somebody said in the introductory remarks, that the COVID that has laid clearly bare all of those inequalities that we have existed. So I'm aware or that still characterize our society. I'm aware of children that sit at home and being taught the way we are talking now, and they don't miss lectures or lessons at all. So for them, they just work from home. And then in other cases, children had nothing, you know. And whilst South Africa was talking for a long time about the digital divide and the technology divide and the economic divides, and basically, much to our shame, we did nothing about it or very little about it. We are now forced to confront. We are now confronted with this in a very forceful way. Now, the minister made an announcement about a month ago that all NSFAS students will get digital devices. And we are going to provide them with digital devices, but that is not the solution to this whole issue. You can't give a student a laptop and say, we have solved the digital divide. But what it does, it now forces us to look now at how can we leverage technology from the cloud, how can we use the modern technology, and how do we get that into a rural house or rural home, for instance. And so those debates which we were talking about year after year after year is now becoming an accentuated debate with no more longer the luxury of, okay, we'll do it next year type of laissez-faire approach. And so that has forced us to move forward. And when I talk about this topic, I've actually become quite passionate because when I did my MBA and I did not like my lecturer, I went on to search engines and I found the best lecturer on that topic. And that was my way of augmenting the classroom face-to-face learning. Now, I'm sure in many ways, if our students today can get the best lecturer on, and I'm a physicist, on Newton 2, and he did not understand what his first lecture said, then he can go and we can go through a learning space at his own time. Moreover, if you were not in class or you did not understand the lecture that particular day, you can get this stuff on YouTube and watch it over again. So I'm just using very simplistic examples. Of course, there's much more complicated technology that's available that can enhance and augment and make successful the learning environment. So my message to parents and to students, the world is not going to go back to the old chalk and blackboard environment. In some cases, yes, but your only way to equip you is, in the olden days, we used to say, if you can't switch on a computer, you're illiterate, you know? Now, if you can't leverage modern technology, you are going to be illiterate. Because the first thing, if you enter a work environment, whether you become a mechanic or an engineer or a plumber, they all work off computers these days. And so a very welcome addition to our debate about technology enhancement in the education sector is that we are now also providing the digital devices to TVET students, which never had any allowances like that. And so this will take them now into an environment, and I know about this technology, virtual reality, where you can cut up a person in a mortuary when you're a medical student, or you do an operation or deliver a baby, and if you make a mistake, you just press delete and you get a new patient by virtual reality. Or you can build a bridge and test it differently, and all of that you do in virtual reality. So the world has changed. South Africa, unfortunately, stayed well behind, and we are even behind our African counterparts. Because when I went to a conference in Zambia last year, every single student, scholar in Ghana, by the time they get to grade 3, they get a device, a laptop device. So those kids don't carry books to school anymore. They carry a single device. In Tanzania, I think it's Tanzania, or it could be Kenya, but anyway, in Tanzania, the TVET students actually build computers in the TVET colleges for themselves and also to sell to the outside world. So not only do they get the experience of how to build a computer, they're also building something from themselves. So in many ways, we are behind, but now COVID has forced us to push further and quicker ahead. And so if you then say that this is a crisis, and and of course it's a crisis, and I mean, I feel sorry for people that must go to school and being sent and doubting whether they should send the children to school. But I think looking beyond the crisis, I think we're going to have a different teaching environment. Already I can see that I'm going to limit my traveling, because I don't have to be traveling all over the country like a mad person. You know, I used to be on a plane 3-4 times a week. And when I look back, it's absolutely madness. And so even for myself, I see a different working environment going forward. And I find myself also to be much more effective working from home, because I work 8-10 hours or 12 hours if it need be. And I can call anybody and talk to them face to face. So just how to deal with the NSFAS applications going forward, and I'm rushing a bit because I'm not sure how much time I have. We will be opening up NSFAS applications on the 1st of August. I'm drafting a letter to the minister to get his concurrence, and it will probably have to be a very virtual outreach, much more virtual than what we had last year. Last year we went to small towns and rural areas, and we traveled all over the country. And so we have a partnership with DBE, where we are hoping that they're going to enforce and enhance NSFAS related material in the guidance sessions. What do they call it these days? Career guidance or life orientation. Yeah. So that children can early get their documents together. In fact, I would urge them to start to get their documents now already together. You know, your father's payslip, the ID documents, make sure that they're certified, because our systems now at NSFAS can pick up, even if you stay with your granny, we can pick up whether you have a father somewhere in the country. And we would say, whoa, you've got a father and he's working. And we have very difficult situations where the kid would say, I don't even know my father. And then we have to go into separate verification methods. We can verify your SASSA status. We can verify all of those things. So make sure your documents are accurate. Make sure you get your income statements from your father, your mother. And if you're a SASSA student, send us your SASSA details, because we, in any case, validate it on our side again. So get all of that together, because although we're paying so many students, we've already paid almost 640,000 students for this year already. There's still about 20,000 that we have great difficulty in processing their documents, because they've got outstanding documents. They didn't fill out their consent form, because without a consent form, we can't check their income. So the 4 important things: you must fill out the consent form, you must have your ID, you must have your father's ID, of course your father and your mother's ID, and you must have an income. Now we can check your income through SARS now, and so when you are rejected, don't give up, because like I said right at the start, we have access to other bursaries. We just organized for 70 medical students at Walter Sisulu bursaries from a CETA, because they did not qualify, because they had already been paid for a BSc degree before by NSFAS. So I think my message: don't give up, work hard, apply to the university, apply to NSFAS, and make sure you make use of this opportunity. You will not get this opportunity anywhere else in the world, to be paid and to leave at the end of your degree and go and enter the economy straight away without any student debt. In the USA, people take up to the age of 40 years to pay off student debt. So it's a pity we couldn't look at the video, because a lot of the things that I tried to talk to now would be in the video, but if you can find a way to distribute it, it would be useful. So I think that's sort of our big overview-ish. If people want to engage on particular points, I'd be very happy.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Carolissen. We will share that video afterwards on our social media pages. Before we just take the questions from everyone, I'd like to know from you. I have been receiving questions around people not having IDs to apply because lockdown and everything like that. What has changed over COVID-19? I understand you're working at home. You guys have been quite innovative about this, but for the prospective applicants that are doing grade 12 right now, what do things look like? What are you doing differently to make sure that they can apply smoothly without any complications? ID question being one of them.
So in the case where people don't have IDs, or they lost it or whatever, all they have to do is to provide us with an affidavit. And if they have the ID number, we will then do the validation for them on their behalf with Home Affairs. The same with social development. We can also do that on behalf. We do it all the time. In any case, we do it for all our people. But just from our own auditing perspective, you must provide something, because we understand that in many cases, people living in rural areas must spend a lot of money to get to town to go make a copy. So that is a big challenge for many people. So we provide, and we have also in my office, I've set up what we call a rapid response team to deal with those difficult issues. You know, like I spoke about the granny, the child living with a granny, and or he's never seen his parents, but we can pick up that the parent is somewhere. So perhaps we should become a tracing agent also. But so don't give up. I think that is the bottom line. You know, the second thing is make yourself technology literate. Open up a bank account, because like I said, we are going to pay into bank accounts. Don't mess around with your cell phone. We get students that change their cell phones on a weekly basis. Then they don't get their money, and then they say NSFAS is not paying them. And don't listen to scamsters to ask you for your PIN numbers and things. So become streetwise. You know, don't be fooled by anything. And by the way, we scrapped the voucher system because it's rubbish. So people get cash. I don't believe in voucher system. You give it to alcoholics and drug addicts. So a lot of those vendors that benefited off the voucher system, we've cut them off now so that students can manage their own money. So the other thing also, since we have so many students, 650,000 or 700,000 at some stage, our call center is too small to deal with those volumes. We only have 100 people in our call center. And even if we double it or triple it, we won't be able to service so many students. And so we've set up portals. So learn to use the portal, because on the portal, you can track your progress. And a lot of students complain about the portals, and perhaps with good reason, because we're fixing a lot of the systems that went wrong. But the majority of students actually very successfully work with the portal. So the minute you apply, you create a portal for yourself. And learn how to use that portal, because on that portal, you'll see how much you're going to get paid, when you're going to get paid, and what your allowance structure looks like. And so therefore, I say empower yourself. Even if you go to an old NSFAS funded student and say, just help me through this difficult first month or so on. But don't just throw up, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Long question for a long answer for a short question.
No problem. We do have other questions. So remember, we are live. There's other people. So it's not just a conversation between yourself and me.
Good.
We have, I'm going to combine these two questions. These people want to know if they can apply for NSFAS support when they want to go to, one is going to a SA Doc Training College, the other one to a culinary institution. No,
we don't pay for private providers. We only pay for public universities and public TVETs. And if you talk, and if I heard you correctly, you spoke about a dockyard. Now the Navy, if you go there, the Navy will have bursaries, you know. If it's in the Navy. So we don't pay, unfortunately, we don't pay for public institutions at the moment.
Okay, someone on Zoom asked, I want to know what is going to happen if a learner does not get a bursary due to the lack of resources, and how will it result in marks that are not as high as they usually get? Are they still going to get a chance to obtain a bursary?
You're talking about the matriculants now?
Yes.
Well, look, let me just explain it the other way around. So NSFAS qualify you on your parents' income or your SASSA status, okay? We don't look at your bursaries, sorry, at your results. The universities make that decision. So but that's important, because you only become funded once we receive your registration data. So you must be a registered student. So we are not going to look at your marks, but the problem is that there's going to be big competition next year for university. So you know, we just have to find ways to make sure that you are part of that competition. And by the way, a lot of students still think of universities as their first choice. Some of our TVETs have been upgraded, and they are really, really good TVETs, very modern TVETs, and producing high-level skills. In other countries, skills are even better and higher rated than academic degree skills. So you have to think and investigate that as well. But it's still early, and people must investigate all of these options to them.
Okay, let's take one more. Dawood on Zoom would like to know, what is NSFAS what is NSFAS plan for the missing middle students?
Okay, so like I said, where we can, yeah, we will assist. So like we administer the Funza Lusaka, and there's no household cutoff. It's a teacher's training bursary. And a lot of students that are in the missing middle actually make use of that bursary. And like I said, also we are talking to many seaters to make more money available for the missing middle. But overall, it is a problem. And we have discussions with the minister about the reintroduction of a loan scheme for students that don't qualify for free. Because you don't want anybody to be denied an education. And even if you have to borrow money to pay for it, it's still the best investment that you can ever make. Ask me, trust me, I know, you know, there can't be a better investment a father or mother can make in their children's education.
Yes. While on that, Dr. Carolissen and myself being a recipient of NSFAS, and also on the topic of legacy, I'd like to know, I know in your presentation earlier, you talked a bit on success stories or what NSFAS has done successfully so far. I'd like to know how many people has NSFAS enabled so far, myself included, and I'm really grateful for what NSFAS has done in my life. Do you also have some interesting stories, maybe just one that you can share?
Okay, sure, I'm trying, you caught me on that number. I normally have all the numbers at hand, but I think it's running into millions of young people like yourselves are now professionals because of the NSFAS intervention. And it's an interesting figure. I knew it somewhere, I don't want to guess, but I think it's more than 3 million, 5, probably, I don't know. It's a lot of people. So wherever I go and I bump into young professionals, they come to me and they say they were NSFAS students. And so some of the fallacies that people put out there is that this is a waste of money and the students are drunk all the time and they waste all the money. That's absolute nonsense. NSFAS students take the chances and they make a success of it. And I can tell you many stories of many different people. A granny borrowed money and she flew down from Springs to NSFAS. She came into the office and I walked past the office where she was helped in. And she insisted to see me. And I said, you know, I'm really busy, but by the person that came to ask me, and I said, okay, bring her in. And she just burst out crying in my arms. And I said, now what's happening here now? She says she flew down from Springs, had to borrow money because she came into the NSFAS office to find out whether the bursaries are for white people also. And when we said yes, she just burst out crying. And these are 2 orphans. I don't know, the children are either dead or they're missing or whatever, but she looks after the children. So there are many, many stories like this which we can narrate. And that I'm making that particular example because in the Western Cape especially, and in the Northern Cape, when we go out to do outreach programs, we are so disappointed by the uptake because the kids there would tell us these bursaries are only for black people, you know, which is nonsense. And that's why I wanted to show this video, because these kids didn't know anything about NSFAS. They didn't know what was going on. And in fact, even whilst you explain to them the benefit, you still have to persuade them to go and study. So there are different attitudinal problems which we as a society must work on. Whereas in the KZN area, when we go to KZN in the rural areas, the kids queue for, it looks like an election day, the way they queue. They are not leaving until they enroll. And where we find our biggest success, like for instance in the Eastern Cape, is because we work with local NGOs and we have local ambassadors, such as yourself, that tell kids, make use of this opportunity, don't waste it, you know. And so I can go on and tell you very funny stories sometimes also. But I can just say from my personal self, besides the hundreds and thousands of students that we fund, every day I change somebody's life, 3 or 4 or 5 families' life. And I mean, you can't have a better job than that. So it's extremely fulfilling when you are able to turn somebody's fortunes around, or when you know the child was rejected because we can't find his father, and then we find a way to get an affidavit from the granny, and you know, and then you know, it's just so heartwarming to be able to do this type of work. But ambassadors like yourself must also come forward, yeah.
Yes. Thanks, Dr. Carolissen. We have to let the people go now do their homework. But before I let you go, I have just 2 questions for you. If you can just answer maybe in 30 seconds or less. The first one is that at Jakes Gerwel Fellowship, we change people's lives through education. So I'd like to know who was your favorite teacher that changed your life and why? And then when you end, to just share maybe words of encouragement or final advice for the matrics this year.
So I've got a very close relationship with University of Western Cape. Brian O'Connell was a vice chancellor there. He was my English teacher in high school, standard 8, 9, and 10. And he always used to say to me, I'm going to go either one or 2 routes. I'm going to become a very successful gangster or a very successful academic. And then I knew Professor van der Ross very well, and Professor Jakes Gerwel, I knew them very well. So, and I've got enormous respect for the gateway that they opened for many thousands of students out of poverty to become professionals. So that's the other thing. And then my final word of advice is don't give up. You are going to fail. You're going to be knocked down. You're going to get despondent, but don't give up. When I was a lecturer at UWC physics, I had a lady student who studied during the day, and at nighttime she was a petrol attendant so that she can attend lectures during the day, and she completed a degree. So if you feel sorry for yourself, take that as an example.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carolissen. At Jakes Gerwel Fellowship, we are looking for high potential educational leaders who are really ready to leave a legacy through education by being expert teachers, educational leaders, or social entrepreneurs to join our current candidate fellows who have said yes to our vision. Applications are currently open, and I'd like to invite everyone who'd like to apply for our scholarship to head on to our website to apply. If you're a leader or a teacher or a parent out there, please share this news. Please share our website. Please share our social media pages as well, so that all the grade 12s are aware. It is now 16:46, and we have come to the end of our talk today. Join us again tomorrow until Friday, every day at 4 p.m. We will be hosting a different organization that will speak to you about their opportunities, about their legacy, and about their why they exist and why they do the work that they do. Tomorrow, we'll have Alan Gray Opis Foundation here again at 4 p.m. It's been really lovely hosting you, and it's been really great to have you on board, Dr. Carolissen. Really grateful. We have to let these young people now go do the dishes, do their homework, so they can be change makers in the future. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. And remember, this video will be made available on YouTube later today. We will also share Dr. Carolissen's YouTube video that we tried to play earlier on our social media so that you can be able to watch it. Invite your friends, share with them, and remember, we have a date again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye, thank you.
Okay.